So, a lot has been said and a lot has been thought when it comes to the realm of silicon based life forms. Now, for most of us, the first experience that you ever had about threats of AI, you thought of the Terminator, you thought of Skynet, you even thought of 2001 A Space Odyssey. But there is more to the reality of artificial intelligence than is out there. For instance, AI can simply be split into two very, very subjective categories. One is deep learning, and the other one is neural networks. How does a neural network actually function? Well, a neural network is nothing but a program that has a set of neurons that are wired together. These wired together neurons have one objective, and that is to process whatever input is given to them and give out an output. Outputs have mistakes that then need to be corrected by human data, and then the neural network does its thing and keeps processing various outcomes till it gets it right, and then it learns. So the next time you input the same data, the output is going to be rather spontaneous. But what is deep learning then? Well, it deep learning is nothing but the fact you need to specify objectives to AI, to neural networks, and you need to let it figure out the solution. You cannot, so by no means are you supposed to hand it data other than certain inputs in terms of how it needs to figure the problems out. That is why it is so difficult to understand the very basics of the functionality of AI. You see, we as a species are already interacting with neural networks on almost a daily basis. In smart products that are interactive with us, in terms of smartwatches, with our smartphones, there is so much out there that makes us interact with AI without even contemplating the fact that you're interacting with AI. There is a new wave of interaction coming in every single day when we look at machine learning present in our own homes with the home assistants, to machine learning being built into the all new automobiles that are coming out. As a matter of fact, smart TVs to smartphones to smart watches to smart anything is essentially neural networks at play. You even interact with neural networks every time you log on to social media. The YouTube recommended section is all controlled by AI. Twitter, your feed, the sequence in which the tweets that you have to witness are laid out by a neural network. On Instagram, the various posts that have come in since you last checked it, the order is all laid out by a neural network, and it's all supposedly laid down in a fashion in which you would appreciate it most. That is exactly why these companies have such intense high level operations when it comes to machine learning, when it comes to artificial intelligence, because these companies are actively using said artificial intelligence on a daily basis. And it is this artificial intelligence that is regulating most of the traffic that is going to these social media websites. There is a common model objective when it comes to neural networks and whatever desired output the developers seek. It is usually engagement and time. Engagement to make sure that whatever content is thrown in front of you is the kind of content that you would mostly interact with, mostly appreciate, in terms of either spend more time on it, therefore directly being proportional to time, or you would either like it, thereby increasing the chances of you witnessing such posts in the future. Because as long as you're providing feedback, remember this, as long as you're providing feedback, you're providing input data for the neural network to process the very next time it needs to figure something out. When it comes to time, it's all about finding tendencies, and human nature has addictive tendencies to begin with. People suffer with addictions with numerous things throughout the globe. Numerous things. And it is this human tendency to get addicted to certain things is what is often exploited by AI on a regular basis. Because AI will not look at certain thresholds that are considered ethical by any means. AI is built to solve issues. You provide it with an input, you cannot control the way it gets you the output, but it will solve whatever issue is asked of it. Thereby, it will use anything that is available at its disposal to reach the desired output. It will not take into account the consequences that might imply in terms of perception as a genuine human being would. There's no rhetoric of being socially acceptable or any such thought when it comes to processing information that was given to an AI. The best way to defend yourself in terms of this common model objective is to have separate baselines and separate user columns. Have frameworks in place that monitor these certain columns, that have real time monitoring, and any fluctuation will require immediate intervention. Here is where this falls apart as an argument on its own. Relinquishing control of the emotional factor that is involved with human beings and human perception, a factor that is already relinquished by the fact that AI is feeding us whatever content it deems worthy. Further relinquishing that control is never a good idea, because being manipulated is a very, very, very risky move. A move that accounts 0% of accountability from anybody involved, and yet yields factors and yields results that are devastating and that can cause massive disarray. As a matter of fact, these systems that we just spoke about are already in existence. These systems exist and are in use today, but restrictions and talks about the potential threats that these systems might harbor are nowhere near possibly seen on a larger scale. There are discussions that are finally coming into play, but discussions on the highest level of the governments, of the authorities that need be required to put guidelines in place to force the hands of certain deep learning companies in order to comply is still a long ways away. And that is exactly where the fear quotient comes into play. We are in fear of replacement of humanity with AI and machines and jobs being lost. We are afraid of loss of effort and loss of skill that once was so near and dear to human nature and is quickly being handed over to machines. And without a shadow of a doubt, those skills that once used to be common among many of us as a species will be lost because of our dependency. Is that the next step towards the future? And is that a given factor? In some cases, yes. In others, it's inconclusive. There are good cases and good arguments on both sides. This is where you need to draw your own conclusions when you ask yourself these questions. As a matter of fact, there is another very, very big and very prominent subject when it comes into the realm of artificial intelligence, and that would be the reality of AI in weaponry. Truth be told, it already exists, and as a matter of fact, the very first implementations of AI in the real world was because of military development. AI research is appropriately based on so-called accuracy, even upon failure. And when these AI softwares, when this neural network fails, they fail tremendously. And they often fail because of wrong observations that were picked up as patterns, and then calls were made on these wrong observations. As a matter of fact, the database that is fed by the programmers can turn biases by the neural network itself, which is nothing but a reflection of the real world society. Certain biases that are not even witnessed, that are not even observed by researchers themselves, are prominent to AI, and that is what is picked up as tendencies. And these biases are what oftentimes makes AI wrong completely, and when it is wrong, it goes very, very wrong. As a matter of fact, there was a very big case involving certain big corporations, and when the topic came on the source code being reviewed to check whether there was a code that implemented biases on purpose, the company said the code will not be disclosed. The source code will not be disclosed. What does that entail is up for perception. But the only thing that I can tell you that is straightforward about this is the fact that biases that are fed into, patterns that are fed into these AIs, the fact of the matter is these AIs will pick up on those patterns even if we as a species failed to recognize these patterns in our own data. The military technology is in the shadows when it comes to AI. And it should hold us all in doubt about what it is actually capable of if they decide to one day, for some reason, flip the switch. We already see certain columns of the military being grouped in with certain AI robots out there. Boston Dynamics is a name that comes up more times than not when you understand military and AI working together. Here is where AI is more involved in your life than you think. You see, there are certain black box AIs that are present in bank systems, in job interview filtering systems, in license databases. As a matter of fact, it is present in every single realm of an online corporate life. And what these systems do is run you and run a pattern of predictability about what you might defect on and what you might not defect on, what you might be capable of or what you might not be capable of. You are being judged by a machine based on data it was fed that might not necessarily entail to you at all, but the fact that there are similarities anywhere between your specific data fed to it and the data that it has been used to learn over the period of time that it has existed, the fact of the matter is that that threshold is existing, and that is the threshold that you will be judged against, and that is the threshold that you are more often times than not grouped and pooled together in certain subcategories due to. It is these black box AIs that are in play without any sanctions, without anything to limit the fraudulent databases that might be used, to the fact that there are downright biases as mentioned earlier. Humanity needs to lead when it comes to artificial intelligence, not follow. And here is where another thing comes into play about artificial intelligence. The thing with AI is the fact that AI will not entail to logic or reason when it comes to our perception of things. We have a bias that if we need to go from one place to another, if we are standing at point A and we need to get to point B and we are on a flat surface, our approach to from getting to point A to point B would be creating some kind of walking mechanism that we can use. What does AI do when it's given the same set of circumstances? It will pile itself up high enough to cover the distance from A to B if it topples over, and then it topples over, thereby finishing the job of it reaching from point A to point B, but not understanding that in its approach it has ruined the fact that if need be it needs to reach point C, now it cannot do so because it has damaged its entire structural integrity. This sort of logic, the ability to think ahead, needs to be pre-programmed into AIs. This is not something that AI can contemplate all on its own. And this can only be taught due to the accurate information that is fed into AI. As long as you do not understand the consequences of the data and the significance of said data and the significance of the people responsible for cultivating said data, we cannot then hope and pray for an AI system that magically understands what it's like to be human. You see, we do not want to become more like AI, we want AI to become more like human beings. That is the objective with machine learning. AI will always solve the issue, but without perception. And it is the worst of unforeseen human tendencies that are often duplicated by AI. Tendencies that we do not observe, tendencies that we do not see, yet are tendencies that exist and are tendencies that are out there and are prevalent. And for some reason, we fail to observe them. I'll see you guys in the next one.